Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Daniel Cormier to defeat Jon Jones. And I'm here to talk about Phillip Rowe versus Neil Magny. Phillip Rowe is 32 years old, 10-3 as a pro, and he's got the same height and the same reach as 35-year-old Neil Magny, who has a record of 27-10. Phil Rowe, he's got 10 wins, 10 finishes. 6 via knockout, 4 via submission. Guy's a bona fide finisher. I would say, first and foremost, he's a grappler. He's an excellent submission grappler. But in MMA, he's, in the UFC, I should say, first and foremost, he's a knockout artist. Because, at least at the UFC level, I don't think he's got the wrestling to really, it's not on par with his jiu-jitsu, his overall grappling. So he's been forced to find other ways to win, and he has found them. And he's found them against some good fighters, some really good fighters. And typically, those knockouts come down the stretch, which is even more impressive in its own right, especially when you're getting knocked around a little bit in the middle of the fight. He got wins over Nico Price, round 3, after being hurt by that fucking guy who's insanely dangerous. And Phil Rowe was able to survive and got Nico out of there. Busted him up against the cage, hit him with a big knee, which was really the difference maker, and pounded him out against the cage. So great win for Phillip Rowe. That's, easily his finest win. But he also knocked out Jason Witt, which, not so impressive. The guy's got a famously weak chin, but it was made famous by Phillip Rowe. And Orion Cochet, again, maybe not the best overall fighter, and a lot of defensive hauls, potentially a weak chin as well. But Phillip Rowe got him out of there after a hard scrap. This guy is shown to be very gritty. We know he's got an excellent ground game. And on the feet, he can take it and he can really give it. He's an excellent fighter to watch. Also got Leon Shabazian out of there in round 3. He's got 10 finishes, as I said, and 3 of them come in round 1, 5 in round 2, 2 in round 3. So, Phil Rowe, even if he doesn't look like he has great cardio, the results speak for themselves. At the very least, he's very dangerous throughout the whole fight. His 3 losses come 1 by knockout, 2 by decision. We saw him lose to Gabe Green by decision in the UFC, and then this other guy beat him in his second fight, I think, by decision. The first fight he ever had, his debut, that's his TKO loss. And he was kind of, I don't know if he was knocked unconscious, but he was rocked. He was, his chin failed him. It's not like he was pounded out from a bad position or whatever, and the ref stopped it. No, he was rock silly and sat down on like one knee and got pounded a little bit more. So his chin failed him there, which I just want to make note of, but it's not really relevant because Neil Magny, even though he's got 7 TKO victories, I don't think any of them are by cracking chins. Neil's not the guy to crack a chin. But Neil is the guy to win a decision. And I do think here that's how this fight breaks down. Before I get into Neil Magny, let me just say, Magny by decision or Phillip Rowe by finish. I think he could get the knockout or the submission, or he would get the first knockout or the first submission. But I think Neil Magny should win the decision. Of course, Neil can get Phillip Rowe out of there as well, but that would be in round 2 or 3. I think especially round 3 in a Neil Magny fight, he can put a lot of guys away. But Neil, he's an excellent point fighter. I don't have to break down his whole record, but I'll tell you this, he's 16-2 in decisions. And the overwhelming majority of those are in the UFC. And we've seen him beat some excellent fucking fighters. Robbie Lawler, Max Griffin, Jeff Neal, Rocco Martin, Li Jingliang, whoever the hell else. Kelvin Gastelum in that fight, 5 rounds. And the losses, they all come to killers. He has been knocked out twice and submitted 6 times. So, it's happened. But those have been to killers. Lorenz Larkin went through him like a buzzsaw. And Santiago Ponzinibbio also knocked him out. That was in round 4, though. Sustained ass-kicking. The 6 people to submit him are Gilbert Burns, Shavkat Rakhmonov, RDA, Damian Maia, Sergio Moraes, and this guy Andrew Trace, who, as I mentioned in the last Neil Magny video, guy probably should have kept fighting. It looked like, at least on paper, he's a pretty good fighter. The 2 decision losses come to Seth Baczynski and Michael Chiesa. So he's only lost to really good fighters. Every loss of his, aside from that Andrew Trace fight, comes in the UFC. And the guys that did submit him were able to out-wrestle him. RDA and Gilbert Burns beat him the exact same way. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Damian Maia, well, you can imagine how that one looked. He was all over him. Sergio Moraes did catch him with a triangle choke. That one's the only one that's a little different, but still, that's an excellent submission artist, and that was a much less refined Neil Magny. I don't know if Neil Magny's being caught in too many triangle chokes these days. I think you have to dominate him, you know, bully him and dominate him to get him out of there via submission. Of course, Neil is a submission threat himself, as Daniel Rodriguez found out in round 3. That was Neil's last victory and one of his best performances. You know, maybe not altogether. It looked like the fight was starting to get away from him in round 2, but he turned it up in round 3, came out like a bat out of hell, and took one of the biggest scalps he's got. And that was by round 3 submission. Just one of Neil's finest wins. The Jeff Neal win is excellent as well. But look, in this fight, I do think, as I said, it's Neil Magny by decision, 16-2 in decisions, or Phillip Rowe getting a finish. Of course, Neil could get the finish in round 3. So I'll wait to see how the prop bets play out, but I've played Neil Magny's money line, because gun to my head, I would favor Neil Magny in this fight. But I don't love his money line. I want to see some juicier odds for the decision, because with Neil, you can isolate his path to victory pretty much to a decision. Sometimes round 3 finish as well. But he's not a guy that's going to concuss anybody, separate him from their senses. I don't see him going through anybody like a buzzsaw. And, you know, he's still low. He's a reliable fighter fighting these longer fights. Until he isn't, and he turns a corner and he's getting old and it sucks. But for now, Neil Magny's the pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.